All right, example 3.1 says, suppose you have been mining Bitcoin for the last 6 semesters. You have an offer to trade 1 unit of your Bitcoin for 41 units of Ether, which is Ethereum's unit of value. Should you accept the offer? Okay, as laid out in chapter 3, anytime we're trying to make a decision on a trade, or a lot of times anytime we're trying to make any decision, the general calculation we're making is what is the value of this trade, where the value is equal to the benefits, that is the thing we're going to get, thing or things we're going to get, minus the costs, where the costs are the thing or thing that we're going to give up in order to get the benefits. In this example, we are looking to, or if we were to decide to take it, we would receive 41 units of Ether. All right, so our value is equal to 41 units of Ether. Our cost, or the thing we're going to give up, is 1 unit of Bitcoin. So 41 units of Ether minus 1 unit of Bitcoin. Okay, and here is where we run into trouble. We've got 41 units of Ether minus 1 unit of Bitcoin. Well, I've got numbers there. It's 41 minus 1, so I can do that subtraction. 41 minus 1 is 40, but it's 40 what exactly? What is Ether minus Bitcoin, right? Those are not the same units, and so it's not clear what 40 represents and whether that is good for us or not good for us. Are we creating value for ourselves by executing this trade? Are we giving away value? We just don't know. And that's because the benefits are expressed in different units than the costs, right? And we run into this all the time, and you're probably screaming at me in this example video right now, like, hey, that's obvious. But I want to lay this groundwork because what we're going to find is that dollars expressed, or dollars that happen at different time points are actually expressed in different units as well. And the same conversion process that we go through in this example is going to turn out to be the same conversion process we need to go through when we are looking at exchanging dollars today for dollars in the future, or vice versa. So walking through this example, although it seems really obvious, is really important for laying the groundwork for what's going to happen immediately after this. All right, so this 41 units of Ether and 1 unit of Bitcoin, expressed in 2 different units. We want to express these in the same units. And that could be anything, as long as it's in the same units. We could convert the units of Ether into units of Bitcoin and do that subtraction, or we can convert units of Bitcoin to units of Ether and then do the subtraction that way. But typically what we'll do is if we have 2 things that are not dollars, we will change them both to dollars and then do the value calculation based on the dollar value of the benefits and the cost. So before we can do this, we need a little bit more information. Let's say that Ether, 1 unit of Ether, is currently trading for $226. Okay, I'm going to write this a little bit differently. So 1 unit of Ether is equal to 226. Normally you would see the dollars out front here, but I want to express the full units attached to this number of 226. That is $226 per unit of Ether. Right? And then similarly, Bitcoin, 1 unit of Bitcoin is currently trading for 9,080, and that is dollars per unit of Bitcoin. Okay, now these market prices of Ether and Bitcoin are actually conversion factors that we can use to change our units of Ether and units of Bitcoin into dollars. Let's start with Ether. So we've got 41 units of Ether. And each one of those units of Ether are worth $226 per unit of Ether. All right, and just to make it clear what's going on here, I'm actually going to take this 41 units of Ether, and I'm going to express the units here of Ether over 1. Now we haven't changed the value by doing this. Anything over 1 is just itself, so it's still just ether. But the reason I want to write it as a ratio is so we can see what happens when we multiply it by the $226 per unit of ether. With the 41 units of ether, I've got ether in the numerator here, in the units, and the $226 per unit of ether, I have ether in the denominator. So when we multiply these two things together, ether in the numerator and ether in the denominator will cancel out because it becomes ether over ether, and anything over itself is 1, and the only units we are left with are dollars. So we end up with just 41 times 226, which turns out to equal 9,226. And now dollars are the only units we have left. So I'll write that dollar value out front where it normally goes. Okay, now let's do the same thing with Bitcoin. Right? Let's convert it to dollars. We are going to give up 1 unit of Bitcoin, so 1 Bitcoin. And that 1 unit of Bitcoin is worth 9,080, and the units attached to that 9,080 are dollars per unit of Bitcoin. All right, so if we write that Bitcoin over 1 for the units attached to my Bitcoin, we've got the same cancellation happening here. We've got Bitcoin in the numerator, Bitcoin in the denominator. So we're left with just 1 times $9,080. And so the value of that 1 unit of Bitcoin is $9,080. All right, now we've got both of these different cryptocurrencies expressed in just dollars. So now we can plug directly into our value equation, where again value is equal to the benefits minus the costs. All right, so in this case, the benefits, what we're going to receive in this trade are 41 units of ether, which we have converted to dollars. So those 41 units of ether are worth $9,226. The cost, what we're going to give up, is 1 unit of Bitcoin, which we have found is worth $9,080. And so when we take 9,226 minus 9,080, we get $186. And so this trade, if we were to execute it, if we were to accept it, give up our 1 unit of Bitcoin for 41 units of ether, we are receiving something that is worth 186 more dollars than what we are giving up. So just based on the value of this trade, yes, we should accept it because we are better off by $186. Now, there's an important point to this that is maybe less obvious here, but it's a lot more obvious when we're talking about other commodities. And that's that even if you have no interest in ether at all, you don't have any use for it, you're going to get rid of it right away, or at least not do anything with it, that doesn't impact the value of the trade, right? Even if you have no interest in ether and you just want Bitcoin, you just want dollars, you would still execute the trade, and then you could either sell off the units of ether, just convert it to cash, and you'll have 186 more dollars than you had before, or you could convert the ether again to Bitcoin on the market, and then you'd have 186 more dollars worth of Bitcoin than you had before. So even if you have no preference for ether whatsoever, that doesn't really come into play here when we're talking about making value maximizing decisions. It's really only the market prices of the commodities that come into play for these values when we're making decisions. Okay, that's it for this one.